look at those websites or companies you want to write for, see what they're putting out there and create your own content. Like you could put it on Medium, you could put it anywhere.
Hello, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the First Hustle Then Brunch podcast. I'm your host, Jazzy, and today we're giving you an introduction to the world of freelance writing. Whether you're an aspiring wordsmith or a seasoned writer looking to take your craft to the next level, this episode is for you. We'll explore what freelance writing is all about and why it has become one of the most sought-after side hustles today. But freelance writing doesn't have to just be another side hustle. Today's guest, Lauren Ward, has been a freelance writer for 10 years. It started out as a side hustle and has since turned into a six-figure business. She primarily focuses on personal finance content and has had her work featured in major publications such as USA Today and Fox Business. Keep listening as we discuss how freelance writing can allow you to express your creativity, work on your own terms, and earn some extra income. Hey, Lauren, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Jazzy, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Looking forward to learning about freelance writing.
Yeah, it's a great side hustle or full-time job as I've turned it into. So I'm excited to share my experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. So before we get into more details, can you explain what is freelance writing and what can you write about as a freelancer?
Yeah, great question. So there are a lot of types of gigs that fall under the freelance writing category. I focus on content writing, which is more long form blog posts. So anything you might read from a company or Google and come up on a website to find the answer to your question needs to be written. And a lot of companies and media websites use freelance writers, but you can also write website copy, like sales and marketing copy for companies, product descriptions on online shop pages, newsletters. There's all kinds of stuff that fall into the category.
Okay, yeah, that was a lot more than I even kind of thought about. I knew content. I've had copywriters help me with blog posts before, and sales pages and that sort of thing, but even down to product descriptions. That's pretty cool.
If you read it online or, even in your mailbox, then somebody's writing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so how does your income vary based on the type of content that you're writing?
Oh, that's a great question. So, for blog posts, most projects usually are at a per word rate, or sometimes you might just do a fixed rate for that fee. I don't do hourly most of the time. So depending on your experience level and the type of industry you're writing in, it can vary by word, but usually you want to be making probably a couple hundred or a few $100s on a blog post. Whereas if you're writing short form copy, like for email or landing pages, you usually charge more because even though the word count is fewer, you usually have to do a lot more research and brand voice work with the client, which can be time consuming.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I guess you mentioned a few. What other factors would you consider when you're setting your own rates?
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on the client and the work scope that they're giving you. So if they're providing you with a blog outline, then that takes a lot of time off your plate to have to write it. So maybe that would you would charge a little bit less for that. But if you're starting everything from scratch or need to find experts to interview on the phone, that usually commands a higher rate.
Yeah, makes sense. So what are some of the best ways to market your services?
Oh my gosh. So I don't even have a website for my freelance writing.
Oh, that's good. That's very inspiring because you say that you have now built a six-figure business without a website. So
that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. But so there are two platforms that I do use. I use Contently to host my portfolio, my writing portfolio. So you can just add links to places you've been published, or if you don't have any writing samples yet, you can just launch your own blog and write on there to give potential clients an idea of your writing style. And then I have a LinkedIn profile that I've optimized kind of for my, areas of expertise where I get work through there as well. I have not jumped on the social media bandwagon a lot for client work. I've been chatting with freelance writers a lot on there more recently, but for me, I think LinkedIn has for me been the best place to find quality clients, and not necessarily through posting, but just with making those connections and giving little shout out messages, searching for people who are looking for freelancers. I think that has just been a phenomenal resource the last couple of years, and it's growing.
Hmm. Yeah, for this business, it seems like networking might be the best
Yeah,
choice here.
yeah. Yeah, and as you grow a client base, you'll get referrals too. Like people who are content managers or marketing managers have other friends in the industry that they network with, and that's a great way to get new clients too. And it doesn't really take much.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned there's so many different types of writing that you could do. Is there a particular rule around niches, or can you do, a variety of different content across niches, or is it best to I guess, stick to one?
Stick to one. Yeah, that there's a lot of opinion about that among freelance writers, and you'll find people who are in both camps as extremists. I'm probably more in the middle, so I market myself as a personal finance freelance writer, but I definitely write about other things, especially one type of client you can get are content marketing agencies. So they kind of offer companies the full package of SEO, keyword research, and the visuals and the writing. And so with those clients, I often get into the agency writing about personal finance, but then they tap me for other stuff and I'm happy to do it if I find it interesting and not totally out of my wheelhouse. So I write about other things and I think you can kind of do what you want. Or you might have like a type of your ideal client who isn't necessarily in a niche, but maybe like I want to work with small business women owners and work on their landing page content, or I want to work with retailers who sell this type of thing. So you can niche down in different ways.
Hmm. Yeah. So I know you mentioned that you kind of link to your work on a separate website. Is that the best way you think to build a portfolio, or do you have any other tips for what you should include in a portfolio as far as your freelance writing?
Yeah, I think you should create samples of the type of work you want to write about. So if you want to write for a parenting magazine or blog, you could create your own blog about that on your own website. As you could guest post for free when you're just getting started and want to show that you have credible samples on another website. And then once you get those external links, you can put them on a portfolio hosting platform, like Contently is the one that I use.
Hmm.
And then there's tons of like gig platforms like Upwork and Fiverr where you can dig and find good paying jobs, or just start with a low paying job just to get that experience and then build up from there.
Yeah. So you would say that it's okay to, start with some of those gigs on Upwork or
That's
Fiverr?
how I did. Yeah,
Okay.
I started after I had my first baby and I quit my full-time job. My husband was an English teacher and
Oh,
I just
nice.
wanted to make some extra cash. Yeah, I just started as a
You
side
guys can work
hustle.
together. You can edit now.
Yeah, yeah, he actually is a writer now too. Yeah. And so that's how I started but at the beginning I was like, how do you make real money at this? At $50 a blog or $25 a blog, it feels like
Hmm.
this is going to take forever, and it does. Like you kind of have to continually be increasing your rate when you're in those new areas, and just have the confidence to do it. Or whether you're starting with a financial goal or the goal to build your portfolio, that can help you figure out when it's time to keep applying and find new clients.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you took this business from a side hustle to now a six-figure business. Are you working like 24/7,
Not
or
anymore.
what does it
There have
look
been
like?
moments. Yeah,
Yeah.
there have been moments where it has felt like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you hit a plateau in your income, it's time to just pitch. Like I have like two things. It's two stories I can tell. I guess there's like the story of turning it from side hustle to full-time business, but then turning it from a really burnout business into sustainable six-figure
Yeah.
business.
Let's hear both.
Okay, so I'll start with going from side hustle to full time. So I've been doing it a few years and I felt like I could make more money if, I had more time. My husband was teaching English and he was kind of, public school teaching is difficult and we were
Hmm.
having kids and there wasn't a lot of family time. So I was like, hey, how about when you're on summer vacation, like let's both freelance and see if we can make enough money to like cover your salary. And we did, and like split up the time with the kids. And so he quit his job that summer and we just kind of
Oh,
ran
wow.
with it from there. So that's what happened. But it was still very stressful. And like you said, a lot of working. And But there was a moment when I actually lost an anchor client, like out of the blue. They stopped needing work and I was like devastated. And I was like, what am I going to do? But that was the catalyst I needed to really think about it as a business and start networking with people. Like I realized I was charging way too low. I just didn't really understand the different types of clients that I could get. So I reached out. That's when I started with the FinCon group. I know you're in there,
Yeah.
and went to FinCon and just listened to some great freelance writer speakers, took a course. Like I really invested in
Mm-hmm.
learning how to build it as a business. And that was a
Yeah.
game changer.
Yeah. So now do you limit the number of clients you have, or how do you kind of manage your income and your time?
Yes, that's a great question. I have an income goal every month. Like this is the minimum I need to meet. And
Mm-hmm.
I have an ongoing, book of clients that are pretty stable. Like they have recurring work every month, but I like to have a little bit of a buffer. So my goal is usually to write 2 or 3 blogs a day, and I know I can hit my income goal by doing that.
Oh my gosh,
But I'm
that's a
always
lot.
like,
I started with a blog and it was like a struggle for me to get one blog a week.
oh
So,
yeah, but I write about the same stuff all the time. So it's like I
yeah,
know the sourcing and I know the information. Like I think that's one of the
that's awesome.
benefits of choosing a niche is because you can get really efficient with your time.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. I also always keeping an eye out for context clues or like asking if work is going to slow down because you need to kind of get ahead of that in order to fill that gap in your schedule. Um, and not like losing a lot of income. I do like to diversify. I
Mm-hmm.
have quite a number of clients that I'm maybe not doing huge amounts for each one, but I just feel safer if 3 people dropped in a month, then I would still feel comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's helpful. I always tell people no matter what you're doing, diversify. You need multiple streams of
Yes.
income or multiple sources, coming
Yeah.
in. So, yeah, that's really
It's
smart.
great advice. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that
So,
from experience the hard way.
I'm sure I'm probably all of us have. So, yeah,
Yes.
it happens.
Definitely.
So, what are some common mistakes that new freelance writers make and how can they avoid them?
I think one common mistake is not pitching enough. So if you're in a rut and you're like, why am I not making more? I see people online who are like, how do you get to that 5 or 6 figure level consistently? And I think it's really if you are unhappy with the rate or the amount of work, I mean, you got to be pitching 3 to 5 times a day. I think that's the advice I got that really changed things. And then when you have that extra workflow, you're allowed to be pickier because you're kind of more financially confident at that point. It gives you more
Yeah.
options.
Mm-hmm. And I know you mentioned that you took some courses and got more,
Hmm.
involved in the financial community.
Yes.
How did you learn how to pitch effectively? And like, is there a certain resource that you would recommend people look into?
Yeah, the course I took, I'm not sure if she's still selling it, but it was Earn More Writing with Holly Johnson. Do you know her? She's
I
in the
don't.
FinCon group. Okay.
No.
So it was just a couple $100 course. I mean, you make it up with one blog post, but there are other options out there. I mean, there's tons of resources. And it's really, I think, just helpful to, you're searching for the kind of jobs that you want. I really find LinkedIn to be the best place to find people who are posting opportunities just within their feed, not even with the job post.
Mm-hmm.
But there are all kinds of people now who are doing like newsletter roundups and job board roundups to make those resources in one kind of streamlined place.
Mm-hmm.
In the course, I think being really direct in what you're asking for and what you're offering, and also being really specific, like based on what the individual accepting pitches is looking for. Like I think people can tell if you're just doing a copy and paste, whether it's a
Yeah.
cold pitch or like a call for
Right.
bloggers or writers. I think people can tell.
Yeah. So
Um,
personalize it a little bit.
yeah, I send really relevant writing samples if I have them, or I just like kind of explain why I think I'm a good fit for that specific project. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
attention to detail really helps.
Yeah. How far out are you booking since you're pitching, a few times a day and then you're also writing at least a few blog posts a day? Do you have like a backlog? Is there a waiting list? How does that
Yeah.
work?
I'm not really actively pitching right now because I'm pretty full. But yeah, I'm
Okay.
usually booked out 2 to 3 weeks, and
Okay.
that's with assignments. I mean, like I said, I think it's really easy. I think it's easier when you have recurring clients who just need blog posts every month and you're pretty confident they're going to send you assignments.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you're, say, doing website landing page copy, like copywriters can make a lot of money. Like I see their packages. I'm like, wow, that looks great. Maybe I should get into that. But I think you're constantly looking for new clients because it's just a one-time thing.
True.
So for
Yeah.
me, like that's not my favorite part of working. The writing part is, and like learning about these topics that I'm writing about. So for me, I like my business model better. But for other people, like they love that hunt. They love finding these new small businesses to work with and do the landing page. And I'm sure you can upsell email marketing, social media, and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So there's just so many different business models you can choose from.
Yeah, that's one good thing about this side hustle. I feel like there's so many different avenues you can go into.
Yeah. And I started just like when my baby was napping, I'd, work on something. Or then when it started to get a little bigger, my mother-in-law would come over on Friday afternoons and babysit and I could write. It's like really, if you're starting as a side hustle, you just pick those pockets of time that you're consistent with to work on, and it'll just snowball from there over time.
Yeah. No, I think this has been super inspiring because you've built this very successful business and you already mentioned you had very little social media presence, no website. And those are all the things that people tell you nowadays that you need. So you're proving that that's not the case. I'm
sure it helps, I think. But I think when it comes down to it, it's the writing samples. So just look at those websites or companies you want to write for, see what they're putting out there and create your own content. Like you can put it on Medium, you could put it anywhere. And then you've got, the right kind of samples for what they're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So what tools or resources do you use as a freelance writer to do your job?
I use Google Docs, my laptop. You don't need to get started
that's
with
pretty much it.
Yeah. Payment stuff. I usually just do ACH or PayPal. I know if you like put a website, you can put payment details on there. Like I'm starting to use invoicing software just to make that, but normally I was just doing a PDF invoice. I mean, I kept it basic for a long time, and now maybe I'm just looking at social media too much. I'm like, oh, maybe I should do something more with the administrative side.
Yeah. No, but that again just tells how easy it is to get started.
Yeah.
I think everyone pretty much these days has access to Google Docs. So pretty simple.
Very simple. Yes.
Yeah. So what are some pros? I mean, I guess you kind of mentioned several pros of being a freelance writer. Are there any cons that you'd like to mention?
Oh, sure. There's lots. So time management is one. Like a lot of people feel like it's that feast or famine mode, when it's times of economic uncertainty. I feel good this time around. This past 6 months or so, you saw these layoffs, and I was kind of worried about people scaling back, and I didn't have too much with that. I remember when COVID hit, I was really nervous, and my husband and I just worked nonstop. We said yes to everything because we were so afraid that it was just all going to fall, and it didn't. It just, people needed to get digital content out and communication to their audience, so that didn't hurt. But I guess there are fluctuations, and there are so many things out of your control with when a client, or even when an editor goes on vacation, and then you just don't have work for 2 months because they went on vacation and they're backlogged and they're catching up. I say that's a con. And then I guess just trying to find that work-life balance, especially when you're getting started and things take longer, and you want to get to whatever your income goal might be, whether it's part-time or full-time type of income. I think that's a con.
Yeah. I mean, those are pretty common with other side hustles too. So.
Yes, I should say this. This is like a mantra I have to say to myself all the time. Like you get feedback all the time from editors or managers. You're kind of getting your work assessed all the time.
Yeah.
So I just have to remind myself, I have thick skin. Like I just say that to myself. I don't need it. I have it. I've been having now like 10 years of read comments in a Google Doc. But when you're newer, it can feel like, oh, I suck. I'm a terrible writer. Like you're probably not. It might just be a personality thing, or maybe it's a learning opportunity.
Yeah, I guess that is one piece that is unique to something like this, where you're like constantly getting feedback, constantly getting criticism for what you're doing.
Yeah, you'll find like the right clients who just like your style and you can run with it. But sometimes it's just part of it, I have to put the ego aside and be grateful and learn from it and not be offended.
Yeah, because most of the time, and I've worked with freelance writers before, most of the time it's just like getting that voice right. I want to make sure it sounds like me, or, it just fits what my audience would be expecting from me, that sort of thing. So
right. Yeah.
Especially like nothing personal on that writer.
Yep.
So how does somebody get started as a freelance writer?
So I think the first thing to do is create some writing samples, or maybe you're in a content full-time job at a company and you have some. but just kind of having some links or samples that you can send to potential clients. And then it's just time to look for opportunities. So you can look for job postings. As I said, I like LinkedIn because a lot of times content managers and editors just post within their network that they need writers. I know people put out call for pitches on like Twitter and whatever other social media. Maybe if you want to do more story type stuff where like you're coming up with the idea and like here's like more of a journalistic or storytelling approach. It's not like my favorite thing to do, but a lot of people love that and have successful careers doing that. But those are the places that you can start. Or like we were talking about the freelancing platforms and just getting some history there and reviews and a byline. If you can get something that has your name on it on the website, that's always helpful.
Yeah, wait, what's a byline?
So that's when it has like your picture and your name underneath the article title. You're not ghost writing or like published by this team. It's your name on it, so you can kind of validate yourself more.
Yeah. So one of the last questions I always ask my guests is, what is the most important lesson you've learned when it comes to entrepreneurship that you wish you had learned sooner?
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
That's a good one.
Talked about, diversification is so important. If you're relying on one or two clients and one or two clients suddenly have a budget freeze, what are you going to do? You're going to be hustling real hard to make up that income. So that was a lesson I learned in real time, and had like the whole, I don't know, what do you got, like what do you call like a nervous breakdown? No.
Oh my gosh.
Breakdown, but like, when those moments are just like, what am I doing?
I mean, yeah. Hey,
I should go get a real job.
Best of us.
Yeah.
And just stick with it. Is your husband still freelance writing?
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome.
And
so
we
you guys get
homeschool
to
our
do this
kids,
together.
and yeah, it's really fun.
It's nice because your partner kind of understands what you're doing too, because
and
a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah, and you give each other those pep talks. We're like, am I a bad writer? I got all this feedback. Like, probably not.
Is he in the same niche as you?
He is a little adjacent, but similar. Yeah.
That's awesome. Look at you, power couple over here.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really like just trying to create the life we want, and
that's awesome. Well, this has been great. Where can people find you if they want to learn more or just connect with you?
So my website is writewithlauren.com. I also post freelancing advice on Instagram at the same handle, and I'm always happy to connect on LinkedIn. I think it's a good thing to grow your network on there and kind of see what people are commenting on and chatting about on LinkedIn in the freelancing world as well.
Yeah, LinkedIn, I feel like, is blowing up. There's so many more influencers on there and just lots of things happening, more than just, post your resume and make connections for your job. So,
and I think because it's sort of been the underrated platform, if you post and you're active, like your stuff really gets promoted on there.
Yeah, they probably love that.
Place. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, Jazzy. This has been really fun.
Thanks for tuning in to the First Hustle Then Brunch podcast. If you enjoyed this episode or learned something new, I'd love if you subscribed and left us a review. Another way to support the podcast is to take a screenshot of this episode and share it on your Instagram story. Tag me at First Hustle Then Brunch so I can repost it. Thank you so much for supporting the show, and I'll see you in the next episode.